Now we also asked, what's the main fuel that's used for cooking in the household? And we thought this was an important question to ask for several reasons. First of all, as you know, the VAT on cooking gas, liquefied petroleum, LPG gas, has been reduced. So perhaps in future, the proportion who are using cooking gas will go up, as it has been going up already since 2015 that we have data for, and then we have from the 2019 census. So even without the removal of the VAT, people have been moving towards cooking gas and a slight drop in wood. The second reason we asked this question is because of the government's emphasis on increasing Kenya's forest cover, so that people would cut down fewer trees. I see the government yesterday or the day before reopened tree cutting for the timber industry, which had been shut down, I think, in 2018. Whether that will undermine the policy of increasing forest cover, the government, and especially the president, has been talking about how many billion trees the government will be encouraging and helping to get planted on a yearly basis. Whether that will have an impact on what people use to cook, we shall see. I also saw on the news the night before last, I think, in northern Kenya, I can't remember what county, there was a young woman who was holding a briquette and saying that they are introducing a program, I think it was in Turkana, that all schools will stop using firewood and they'll start using these compressed briquettes, which are much more fuel efficient. And we see the proportion of people using mafuta ya taa, paraffin, has been going down over the last 7-8 years. That's what I used when I first came to Kenya in 1967. I cooked on a paraffin stove. There was no electricity where I was living. I even had a paraffin fridge. Have you ever seen a paraffin fridge? I stole it from somebody in Moshi, Tanzania. Some American who had left gave it to me. But it actually made ice once in a while. Amazing. I don't know if they still make them. Okay, again, we correlated here the type of main cooking fuel in the household with income, and you can see very strongly that wealthier people are far more likely to use cooking gas, and poorer people are more likely to use, or less likely to use wood as they become wealthier. So among the poorest group, people earning less than 5,000 a month, you can see more than 3 times as many use wood as cooking gas, 60 versus 18%. When we get to the wealthy end of at the wealthy end above 50,000, the position is just about reversed, with about 3 times more using cooking gas than wood or charcoal. And the total figures for the entire sample are on the far left. If you have a question as I go along, you can put up your hand. We won't charge for questions, but we can also ask them at the end. Then we also ask this question on a regular basis about how much of the food that you and your family usually eat come from a shamba somewhere, your own shamba, or maybe a close relatives. And we just made the split here. We showed total in red, green for rural, our rural respondents, and the dark brown for people who live in towns and cities. And I was surprised that even in rural areas, not even a third say that all of their food or most of their food comes from their shamba. You know, many Kenyan farmers are growing crops for marketing. If we put some of it and all or most of it together for the rural section, we do get nearly 2/3. But we also know that over the last year with the drought, that people have had to, find food from other places, not just from their own ardhi in the back. And perhaps if we did another survey after the August or harvests, these figures would change, especially for people in rural areas. On the other side of the coin, Some people in urban areas, we find a quarter of them, the food that they eat, say that all or most of their food actually comes from a shamba somewhere. Now, whether they are people in towns who live close to their rural homes so they can go there every weekend, or they have people who are sending that food in, 38% of people in towns, only 38%, just over a third, say none of the food they eat comes from a rural shamba in the family. So that we really only have 62% of people in towns who are completely dependent on buying all the food they eat all the time.